es la voz de LA. It's like una galaxiana, come and kick it with us. I bring the bossa nova beats and talk the club that we love. Another year to adjust, and well, Coons we all trust. 6 titles in the cabin, tell a hater shut up. Mirar al horizonte con el cielo morado. Llegamos al estadio como siempre lo hago. Es la nueva temporada, ya cumplí 30 años. Rezándole a San Pequi que no dé al travesaño. Que repartan los balones y no sean tacaños. Que regrese el contraataque y que le hagamos daño. Un saludo para Robert, hermanos ecuatorianos. Que la táctica de Ananda nunca sean en vano. Si se trata de mi gala me levanto temprano. Ver el fur en verano, en el pasto tumbado. Siempre estoy a tu lado, en cualquier resultado. Vamos Galaxy, on top is where I gotta be. Chilling in the canopy, staging like a winery. Goals during rivalries, brew from the refinery. Only want the finer things, we letting you know. Lo que pasa en la galaxia, ready, let's start the show.
Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome back to another episode of La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast always made with love for all you LA Galaxy fans and for all you MLS fans out there too. We got love for you as well. Well, today, prepare to hear about how the LA Galaxy's offense is sparked to life. Unfortunately, we'll also have to tell you all about how its defense let it down once again as the Galaxy tied St. Louis City 3-3 on the road on Saturday, June 14th, in a back-and-forth game between the pair of bottom-of-the-table teams that showed a lot of the reasons why these two teams might actually be at the bottom of the table. Special guest Christian Conway from Simply Soccer Podcast and the Galaxy Fan Council will be here to give us his thoughts on the Galaxy this season and tell us how he felt about that game against St. Louis. We'll also talk about the defense, the offense finally coming alive. If Greg Vanney has finally found his ideal lineup, what can be done about the defense, and if this match was 2 points dropped or a point earned. Plus, we'll tell you all about how MLS teams fared in the Club World Cup opening game and whether the U.S. men's national team was able to bounce back and silence alarm bells in their Gold Cup opener. All of that and more coming up on La Cuna Galaxiana. And Ananda, obviously, it's I'm itching to get the stuff because I can't even speak tonight, apparently. And so, yeah, without further ado, let me introduce my co-host, Ananda Kirana, el yerno guapo y el gitano perdido. Let's get that one word match reaction, and then we'll keep it moving.
Ay, papá, I'm so disappointed. ¿Sabes por qué? Because he forgot to mention el papá de la natita. Es lo más importante. Acuérdate.
Papá de la natita, yes.
Hey, man, I sent you.
Tío de la natita.
I sent you videos of Natita just having a good old time at the beach. She's a happy little pup, and that makes my heart melt. That probably made your hearts melt as well when I sent it to you and baby girl. So yeah, that was very, very, very nice weekend. Sí, el papá de Natita. No te olvides.
So you didn't let this tie get you down, huh?
I mean, unfortunately, the game happened and it was one of those things where it's like, all right, let's get back so I can be in time to watch the game. Probably missed the first 10 minutes of it, and well, we'll get into if it was worth watching or not. But you asked me for my one word, Papa, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Yeah, I mean the easy one for me, man, is disappointing. Man, it's one of those things.
When will you learn?
I thought we had 3 points in the bag. I thought it was a smash and grab. I just told you this backstage before we jumped on. But if I can cheat, I'm gonna do 3 words, but there's a but in there. I thought it was disappointing but hopeful. I think there were some things. I think as a trend, if I'm looking at this as a trend line, I think there were things that signaled that the Galaxy are sort of back to, they're not back, they're back in 15th still, but they're back to sort of what their MO is, what they're good at, what their strengths are, what we saw from this team last year. And I think I'm starting to, at least in those 90 minutes, maybe in the past 180, if I'm fair, I started seeing those things. But again, I got to keep things in context because we've played the 12th place and 14th place teams in the West, right? So keeping that in context, yeah, disappointed for sure. That's my overarching theme, but maybe there's a few signs to be somewhat hopeful about. We got to take any positives, I guess, at this point.
I guess.
Or you can be Scrooge like Rob.
How far our standards have fallen. Yes, and Ananda said it. I'm your other co-host, Rob Halon. You can find my written work at Extra Time Talk and the Sporting Tribune, and you can find me at El Escudero online.
What's your one word?
What's my one word? Expected. Not surprised.
That was expected from you, actually. I knew it was going to be expected, so that was expected. That was my reaction to your one.
Which is why you didn't text me and tell me this is going to be 3 points right here, because I knew as soon as they flashed up 10 minutes of injury time, I said, "Hey, that's a draw. If not, and it was a draw, and St. Louis had a chance there at the very end to go ahead and make it all 3 points." So no, I was not surprised. I mean, again, no shade, but like they're just, that's what they've shown me all season, an inability to close out these matches.
You're not wrong. We've got some stats to back that up later too. So
yeah. So anyway, guys, we want to thank you once again for being here with us. I mean, I know we have folks in chat here that are international tonight, baby. Marvin G, Papa, this is San Salvador, escuchando. That's some big love, Papa. Thank you so much. We have Guatemala in the house as well. I don't know if Carlos is in Guatemala or is just shouting out Guatemala. Either way, shout out Guatemala. Raul G, we got nothing but love for you, man. William Lamb, Guatemala win over Jamaica. That's what's going on. I just figured out. Well, shout out to all of you guys. We are on the road to 700, and thanks to all you guys, we have broken that 610, 620. So go ahead and keep on subscribing. Let your folk know about this humble little podcast where you can check out all your Galaxy stuff. When you subscribe to this podcast, you get to know about when we have awesome guests like Christian, awesome guests like Josh Guessman that we had on for show 200 just a couple shows ago. And if you really, really want to get something off your chest, if you really want to start a conversation here on the pod, ask a question, just like I said, just say something, go ahead and hit up a super chat. We are on the March 6th to go ahead and represent those 6 MLS Cup titles by the Galaxy. And if you are now watching us on X, no, I don't want to say that, on Twitter and Instagram, go ahead and drop into the YouTube so you can go ahead and get in chat here and interact with the chat, which is always fun. So Ananda and El Profe Alex Ruiz were hard at work on the last episode of Los GATACTICOS. Is now a new hope. So guys, Ananda obviously these days is much more hopeful than I am. So I've yet to get to New Hope territory. Yeah. You can get by watching this episode of Los GATACTICOS. This is number 6.
I was going to say, speaking of the Star Wars puns, maybe this episode, this New Hope thing did a Jedi mind trick on me, and that's what's making me kind of hopeful, is just doing all this stuff and looking at the footage, breaking down the tape, which I love doing. So guys, definitely catch that. We'll talk about some of that actually that came through fruition, Rob. I love it when Alex and I can be brujo. Sometimes we talk about some of this stuff. It's super fun, and I'm glad that they executed on a couple of things that we talked about in this video. So again, guys, if you love sort of breaking down video footage, I pulled out some of the tactics boards and just talking tactics, man, you will love this episode. And those 2 young lads on the screen there are definitely featured, and they're going to be a big part of the rest of the season and possibly into 2026.
So says you. We'll get Christian's thoughts on that, and what else he thinks about this Galaxy team here, because we haven't spoken to him in a couple months. But before we get to him, real quick, we'll get through these announcements, and then we'll get to the reason you're all here. I know this is the reason I'm here. I would have called in sick today if we hadn't been Conway today. So I mean, just know, Conway, that you're the reason that I'm here. But anyway, announcements. Happy Father's Day. Ananda was talking about he was el papá de Natita. So happy Father's Day to my comrade in arms here on the podcast. It is his first Father's Day. Oh, I'm gonna cry. His first Father's Day with Natita.
Fur baby.
Yes, of course. But shout out to all the G's out there that are human dads, and just know that it's one of the toughest jobs on earth, as well as being a mom, and all y'all that do it out there every day. Shout out to you for sure. And happy birthday to LA Galaxy legend Kobe Jones. I mean, every time we talk about Kobe here on this podcast, we gush and the superlatives come out. I'm going to keep it simple today and just say, I hope this man gets all the beautiful things in life. He's surrounded by friends and family. He's brought me and my family tons of joy when I was growing up, just watching him play. So I hope the same for him. Happy birthday, Kobe Jones. And since we're talking about Kobe, we'll talk about the team that he owns, or actually partly owns. Angel City FC continues to show their solidarity with the immigrant community of Los Angeles. They put out these Immigrant City Football Club t-shirts. Fam, if you guys know where to source one of these, please let me know. I want a cop for sure. So Angel City continuing to lead by example. Speaking of dope ass t-shirts, support the movement by supporting 1-2 Threads and this latest t-shirt. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. 100% of the proceeds will go towards Border Kindness Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights and Immigrant Defenders Law Center. I believe this is based off a photo that Bruce Granny Mayo took. I gotta confirm that, but yeah, I think this is a Granny Mayo photo, Ananda. So it would not surprise me because that man is.
Yeah, Christian's nodding his head backstage. So confirmed.
So he tells me that is true, and so yeah, shout out to Bruce for once again putting out beautiful art which becomes symbols of resistance. So anyway, speaking of truth, shout out to Jalen Neal for scoring his first goal. Sarah said Aaron Neal. Shout out to the truth, Jalen Neal, for scoring his first goal as a member of Montreal. Also, per Mama Neal, she was showing off Jalen coming home and showing off his championship ring. It's nice to see that young man smiling, and he also made the team of the week, Ananda. So congratulations to him for, he just very recently came back from injury and he's just getting his first run out. And maybe we'll ask Christian about Jalen here in a little while, get his thoughts on some center backs here in Galaxylandia and center backs that may perhaps be in other pastures. But Ananda, this tournament that's happening here, this big tournament, the Club World Cup, kicked off with the marquee matchup, Inter Miami versus Al Ahly. That ended 0-0. Ustadi saved Inter Miami blushes. He literally saved them with a penalty save that ends with him making 8 saves, coming up big. Inter Miami has another chance to get some points here in the Club World Cup versus Porto next on Thursday, June 19th. And Sunday's match is Palmeiras and Porto tied 0-0. Seattle dropped their first match to Botafogo 2-1, even though Seattle did score a late goal and outshot Botafogo. They would not be able to get that tying goal. Now they play Atletico Madrid on Thursday, June 19th at 3 p.m., which is going to be a very difficult game. Bayern absolutely blitzed Auckland City 10-0. And then in a match that I was at, Ananda, PSG 4, Atletico Madrid 0. It set the attendance record for these two teams. But El Tráfico still with about 2,000 more, just showing you the global appeal of this match of El Tráfico. Not even the European champions can outdraw it. Real quickly, Ananda, I mentioned I was at this match. And it was a cluster. And I just want to say it was such a cluster that our colleague Scott French passed out from pretty much heat stroke after having been made to walk because the shuttles weren't running on time and people needed to get where they needed to be so they can do their work. So Scott ends up walking, and he literally passed out, man. And it was terrible to see just the amount of confusion happening in the parking lot. I mean, Ananda, you know how close I live to the Rose Bowl. I left the house at 10. I got to my seat at 12:02.
Wow.
So it was absolutely nuts. It was worse than El Tráfico at the Rose Bowl. It was
parking is always a cluster there. Always a cluster. I don't know.
It makes it so I probably won't be covering any more matches at the Rose Bowl for this Club World Cup. It's just not worth it. I mean, you can't get in. People don't get the attention that they need. People don't get parking. And can you imagine having to go and pay and cover one of these matches and paying like $50 to work? It's absolutely nuts. It's just not. They need to get it together. Thankfully this is the test run for the World Cup. So hopefully,
but that aside, at least you watched a really good game. I mean, at least from the TVs. I mean, the ball was pinging around. I mean, PSG is on another level, man. Those guys really know how to play ball. I'm sure you were at least treated to. I wish you were at least you were treated to the beautiful game, and also the crowd, right? The sort of the atmosphere, and hopefully that is a glimpse of things to come next year in the World Cup.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl is actually kind of a weird stadium to watch soccer games at because you don't really get that atmosphere because you're behind glass. So you don't really get that too much, but it was certainly impressive to see all 80,000 out there and in the heat and just supporting these teams. I mean, of course, like I mentioned, PSG is a European champion and they are so for a reason. They were playing some lovely, lovely soccer yesterday, and it shows. Atletico Madrid is not a terrible team. They're not a bad team. They're one of the better teams in Europe, actually, and they just got absolutely smoked. They were just PSG was on another level.
And Alex Gutierrez says, not gonna lie, Club World Cup. Geez, say that 5 times fast. Has been good. I don't disagree. Actually, I'm kind of surprised at how, at least for me personally, I'm only going to speak for myself, but I've kind of been more interested in this year in the Club World Cup. Been watching all the MLS games, obviously, but when there's like almost title bouts like this, PSG Atleti, I mean, you got to watch that game, right? So it's been interesting. And then even going to today's results, I thought today's game was interesting as well, which you'll get into.
Yeah, today's match, another MLS team, LAFC, lost 2-0 to Chelsea. Goals by Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez. That was the 12 p.m. game. And then in the afternoon games, Boca Juniors and Benfica, 2-2 thriller. Benfica came back from 2 goals down to tie. Nicolas Otamendi ties it in the 84th minute. And in the last game of the day, Flamengo beats Esperance from Tunisia 2-0. And then switching right over to the Gold Cup, Ananda, Mexico handily beat the Dominican Republic 3-2. Don't let that scoreline fool you. It was 3-1 for most of that match. They play Suriname next on Wednesday, June 18th at 7 p.m. And then the result they desperately needed, the U.S. men's national team beats Trinidad and Tobago 5-0 to open this tournament in fine fashion after dropping 4 in a row. This one was highlighted with a brace by Malik Tillman. Big Pat Agbayang, Aronson, and Wright scored the other 3. And this is a really good opener, a really good showing for a team that, like I said, was just putting a lot of people through worry in how they were going to perform, especially a year out from the World Cup. They play Saudi Arabia next, Thursday, June 19th at 6:15 p.m. And now we finish here.
I was going to say payback for the loss in that disqualified them officially for the 2018 World Cup. Remember that?
No,
the last,
nothing.
I'm just kidding.
Not even close.
But anyways, yep.
Let's talk about a first place team real quick. VCFC, they continue to do their thing. They beat Minnesota United 2-0 on the road. That's a Mueller brace. He continues his fine season. That puts VCFC in first place after 14 games played, 9-1-4 record on 29 points. Next, they play the Town on June 29th at 5 p.m. away. And long may they continue to reign at the top of that table. And long may we continue to have wonderful friends that are willing to come on and talk Galaxy soccer with us. We've made them wait too long. And without further ado, please welcome to the show one of my favorite people, one of the first people to show me kindnesses when I started going to Galaxy games from San Francisco, and one of the hosts of the always entertaining Simply Soccer podcast. Please welcome back to the show, Christian Conway. Papa, ¿cómo estás? How are you? Welcome.
Welcome back.
I'm very well. Hopefully this mic setup is working because I'm on my phone right now because my laptop is a little having a bit of a moment right now. But you guys brought up a lot of fun topics that I was so excited to talk about. I was thinking, Club World Cup, how are we feeling about that? Are we finally buying into the FIFA copium about all of this?
Tell us.
Tell us, Christian, how you feeling about it?
Honestly, I miss the Confederations Cup that this replaces because the Confederations Cup was so much fun because you had 8 nations that you had Tahiti in 2014, or 2013, excuse me, you had like a lot of that kind of fun. But with the Club World Cup, I think what they're doing is this thing where like a lot of major TV networks do this, which is they want to get to a younger audience. So let's throw 32 teams that spuriously belong here, and then we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. I view a lot of like the whole entire let's get the American market kind of branding a bit tough. But again, like you said, the Benfica Boca match that we saw earlier today, like a lot of those other things, the PSG Atletico match, which by the way, PSG did deserve that Champions League victory because if they could play like that, then like by all means. I think there's certain things here we can pull from this where I'm like, yes, this makes a lot of sense. Just we're in the hands of this current FIFA administration. I will say this. I think you mentioned Botafogo, who have been the best team in South America probably by about a minute over the past couple of years. They are coming for this because South American teams believe, because they were in the middle of their seasons, and South American teams feel this a little bit more because it's to get one up on European teams. They're coming for this in a very significant way. So I would keep an eye on a lot of the South American teams. I nominally think PSG, Chelsea, etc., all the European teams are going to be here to compete for this, but they've played 60 games already in a summer where I can tell you it's hot right now. I just don't know how much is left in the legs for a lot of those players. And I think a lot of those players are looking at this saying, we can use this as a reference point for when we come here next year for the World Cup. I think it's really fun to have a lot of the African nations here in terms of, because I really want to watch, Al Ain, Esperance, all the rest of them, like Tunisia, Egypt, a lot of those club teams, because their supporters are some of the best in the world. And to experience that would be absolutely wonderful. I understand why they came to the East Coast because it's a little bit easier on the lakes, just time zone wise. But I think what a lot of these players are figuring, the United States is a pretty brutal place to play. And Mexico is also going to be a brutal place to play. And I've been listening to a couple of British podcasts, and they basically said, if we could have England based out of like the coldest place we can find, we'll be fine. But the minute that they play in Pasadena, for example, as we saw yesterday, as we saw with multiple other places, it's going to be really difficult. So I think this is a good thing at some level. But I mean, like, seeing the videos of like Boca fans, for example, at Universal Studios in Orlando, on the roller coasters, singing chants while they're on a roller coaster, like that's awesome.
That's so fun.
Cool. Yeah. The Palmeiras fans in that mall in New Jersey with the videos going around. Yeah, that's I mean, that's what I experienced, like switching gears a second to the World Cup. That's what I experienced even in a country like Qatar, right? Where I think the chatter coming into it was, we don't know what it's going to be like. We don't know if it's going to have that same festive atmosphere, but it's the fans, it's the people, it's these nations that, like Brazil, man, the Brazilian fans were going wild in the metro stations, singing and chanting and dancing and clapping, and all the South American countries. So, and this is what it's all about, man. This is really what it's about. I mean, I was in Old Town Pasadena maybe a couple hours after the game, and there was, Atleti fans just like chatting and chanting and like singing and having a good time, and PSG. I mean, there was a lot of fans out there. So I think the atmosphere was really nice to see. And I think that's partially what makes me a little bit more excited about next year, I think, is the environment, the atmosphere that, these are club teams, but I can't imagine if it comes into nations, that's going to be cool in a place like LA.
Gents,
There's a story that I'd like to share here real quick.
Do your thing,
I
man.
heard I was on a work trip, and I ended up at a hotel bar, work trip, whatever, and it was in like Newark. And the hotel bartender was from Peru, and she showed me photos of them in Russia, and she said, "I know 5 of these people in this photo. They're not coming back because they spent all of their funds to get to this World Cup." And like, that's dedication, that's love, and I want that energy next year, where it's like, I mean, obviously, be financially smart, all the rest of it, but like the fact that all those Peruvian fans were willing to basically leverage their entire lives to get to Russia because they never know if they could see this again. Like, that's a beautiful sentiment in and of itself. So
Yeah.
I hope next year we get that.
Which is why these teams that are, these powerhouse teams shouldn't take it for granted, because there are teams that are making it for the first time, and it's just it's a huge thing to be able to represent your country at this tournament. So we are seeing the kind of like the forebearer, the kind of test run in the Club World Cup, and we did see the first couple of games here. You're right, Christian. These South American teams are going to go hard for this tournament. I told Ananda that one of the personal games that I wanted to go really, really badly to is Monterrey versus River Plate. That one is going to be a firecracker match. If you have a chance to go to that one, guys, hit that one up. But I'm really sorry to have to do this to you guys. But we have to talk about, unfortunately, we have to talk about this LA Galaxy team, which did not get a win, unfortunately.
No, they did not. But I think we're looking at kind of the schizophrenic nature of the LA Galaxy at this point in time, which is the attacking core seems to get its feet under the desk. You look at Paintsel and Peck, they're still the same exact relationship that we understand between the two of them, where they actually get each other, find the spaces where both of them interact. I think this is really good. Yes, Pooch would kind of make this all look a little bit better, but Royce is doing his best Pooch impersonation. I don't think he's
Nope.
I think
he's having a
relying on
little
a center
trouble.
back core that basically so I mean, they're relying on a center back core that's 35, 36 at this point in time in terms of average age. Like, you see 2 different sides of this Galaxy team, which is when the ball turns over, when they get in possession, when they can get running, they're brilliant. They're incredibly fun. They are the team that we remember. Again, the minute the ball turns over, they're the team that we remember, which is, oh geez, like, this is going to be, we're going to hope that either a goalkeeper or one of the center backs figures things out. Now, I think lacking Garces is a big issue. I think the fact that they were relying on Sanka, which I have no idea why they're doing that. Yes, he's a good depth piece, but he's not a good starting piece. If any system is going to be built around leveraging so high up with your wingbacks, then you have to have a center back that's willing to run, right? They don't have that because Father Time has come. And I love my Yoshida. I think he's a brilliant captain. I think he is an incredibly smart person, just in every interview I've listened to him / read, he is well educated, he's smart, he knows what he needs to do as a leader. He's 36. Zonka is 34. Like, to rely on that center back pairing, I just don't know where I see how this works, right? Like, that's when you mentioned Jalen Neal. I'm like, why do you let him go? Like,
Yeah.
we need young center backs right at this point in time.
Oh, we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
I have a feeling they're going to go in this. I have a feeling they're going to be busy in the summer, but this game, to just speak on it, it was a lot of what I love about the Galaxy in the attacking third, which is they just kind of create stuff out of nothing and they just have a good time about it. But it also is what I fear with the Galaxy, which is in the defensive third. Oh boy.
Yeah, who boy is right. You saw all kinds of, you saw every facet of the Galaxy here in this match. You saw moments where you were impressed, and you had moments where you said, "This is what I've come to expect from this team." Christian, you know how we do here. Give me your one-word match reaction to this game, and then what do you feel like? Did the Galaxy gain a point in this one, or did they drop 2?
The reaction is confused because I think it was such a diametrically opposed performance. I think they dropped 2 points, to be quite honest. They had that game basically in their hands. I look at that third goal they concede, and it's just, you cannot let a guy that's feeling on his day that way an open shooting lane. So I'd say confused, because I think you look at a lot of the way that they played that game, there was a lot there that I was like, yes, like you look at the one-touch passing air plays, you look at all of the things they did very well, and then every single time they concede a goal, you're just like, how did you do that? So I'd say confused. I'd say they dropped 2 points in this game.
Yeah, easy. Greg said the same.
Yeah, I definitely got to feel like they dropped 2. They had this one in the palm of their hands, and like I told Ananda, I hated to be the Scrooge, but as soon as I saw that injury time go up, I said to myself, well, there's 1 point. And it was a 1 point that was well earned, because they fought back to get it, and they could have gotten the 3 points. But Christian, really quick, switching gears. Last time we had you on, you were telling us a little bit about the beginnings of the Fan Council. Now that you've served for a little while, can you share anything about your experiences, about something fun that you guys may have initiated, and do you think that it's something that you might be doing again?
Well, for full transparency, I'm no longer on the Fan Council at this point in time. I'm taking a little bit off for a couple of projects, and generally, kind of the way that I look at it, I'm watering a couple of gardens I haven't watered in a bit. But I think it's a very good start to an idea that I think will take time to flesh out. I think we, in that inaugural Fan Council, did not understand what power we had, and it took us a little bit of time to. We didn't hit our stride until a little too late, is what I will say. And I'm honored and grateful for the people I served alongside. Jesus. But I think we just didn't understand what we were playing with a little bit. So I would do it again, if I could. But right now I've got a little other personal stuff on the plate that I gotta focus on.
That's all good. I mean, everyone has to take care of themselves, right? And so you got to do you, man. Are you still active in ACB leadership?
No, I resigned as well. It was just kind of a bit of a full send. But I still keep tabs on everything.
So then we're so honored
will
that
say
you're here with us tonight, man. I feel super special. So thank you.
No, I mean, Simply Soccer is still my main beast. I'm tied to Michelle for a long
For
time. So
eternity.
Shout out Michelle.
Shout
yeah,
out.
pretty much.
Um.
Um,
Well, I'm sure you've seen ACB be on the forefront of the protests and everything. So just wanted to go ahead and shout out ACB for doing with what they were doing at the protest at the time. All the supporter groups really they came out and put out their statements as well. So I guess we will get into this match proper here. Ananda, you said that you had a couple of things that you wanted to talk about in this match, but before we get there, I'll give you guys a real quick game summary here. I already mentioned the Galaxy failed to get their second in a row. Coming off that first MLS victory, the Galaxy tied 3-3 in a high-scoring thriller against St. Louis City in what should have been a win. Gabriel Peck scored 2 goals, his first match of the 2025 season, recording a brace. Mateus Nascimento scored his first goal for the Galaxy as well, and Marco Ruiz continued his fine form by recording 2 assists on the day, bringing him to 3 goals and 4 assists this season. And normally, that kind of offensive production should have been enough to get 3 points, but the Galaxy, as we've mentioned, is loath to make things easy on themselves. After spurting several chances at the beginning of the match, Peck had one, Paintsel had one, Micovic made a couple of good saves to keep him in. The Galaxy finally concedes, and they concede first again. When will they learn, right, Ananda? This one was a simple give and go between Marcel Hartel and Joao Klauss. Klauss gets in on goal, and he finishes calmly. 6 minutes later, Marco Reus finally got his assist that he should have gotten earlier with that Paintsel breakaway, and he gets to the end line and plays a cut back that Nascimento was trying to get to. He falls over. Peck is there to clean it up, and he ties the game. And that's how the first half ends, Ananda. And again, you think that the Galaxy would come out of the half and come out strong, but they would concede just after halftime, 2 minutes after halftime to be exact. Joao Klauss again gets over the top, and he gets the ball over the top and he blasts his shot past Micovic for the 2-1 lead. The Galaxy respond back again quickly 4 minutes later. Royce gets probably the nicest assist that he's gotten in an LA Galaxy shirt, this time with a class little back heel, which got to Nascimento and his left foot, and he goes ahead and blasts past Berkey for his first goal. And then Gabriel Peck thinks he wins it. He thinks his brace will be enough to win the game. He goes one-on-one with Berkey, and he keeps his cool to put the Galaxy up 3-2. But like I said, as soon as 10 minutes flashed up on the injury time, I knew it would be too much for the Galaxy to hold on, and Klauss completes his hat trick with a free kick that was flicked on. Klauss one times the volley from a tight angle, a thunder blast to score again and tie the game where it would end, and he gets his hat trick, the first hat trick in St. Louis history. The Galaxy allows that, and for his 2 assist performance, like we mentioned, Marco Reus makes it team of the week. Gabriel Peck earns a place on the bench for his 2-goal performance. Christian, for you, what did the Galaxy do well in this match?
I think it was the movement in the attacking third, to be quite honest. I think the way that they were able to, the minute the ball turned over, and this is something that I've questioned about the Galaxy for quite a bit, which is I know Vanney wants to be a possession-based coach. I understand that. I think it's what his philosophy has always been. But the moments that they've looked good for the 2 years have been when they are playing in transition, when they give up possession, when they allow the ball to be played against them. And the minute the ball turns over, they use Paintsel, they use Peck, they use that speed, they use that ability to really just unseat defenses. I think a lot of what made them look good in this game against St. Louis was just, hey, okay, cool. If you want to attack us with the ball, that's fine. The minute the ball turns over, and I think you look at it on the second goal the Galaxy scored, where they charge that defense because the ball turns over in a loose area, and they were just Johnny at the spot, just like, okay, cool. We have the numbers, we have everything. Like, let's go. And they somehow figured their way out of that. And I think the way that they move the ball incredibly efficiently when the ball turns over, I think that was a very good data point for me in terms of what I think they did incredibly well. That being said, when you're going to leverage in that way, you're going to concede a lot of open space, and that's the big concern.
And we saw those open spaces lead.
Oh, yeah.
To...
Yes, we did.
And we saw those open spaces lead to these chances, right? But you told us what they did well. What would you have improved if you had been Greg Vanney?
Stop playing the offside trap. You have two center backs that can't run. Why are you playing the offside trap? Because the minute you get it wrong, you look at the second goal they concede against St. Louis, it's just basically Joseph Klauss looking at everything and being like, whoa, I have a ton of space. I can do whatever the heck I want. Like, the fact that they were so easily beaten over the top, like every single time St. Louis got the ball and they were just like, cool, we're going to ping one over the top and no one's going to be home. I mean, that's got to be an issue. And as a defensive pairing and as a defensive line, you cannot be beaten that many times over the top, right? Like, that's just basic 101.
And it's not like Klauss is a really, really fast forward. I mean, he's not like terribly slow, but he's not like what you would call fast either. And the fact that he was able to get his 2 goals and the manner that he got. I mean, maybe the first one is a breakdown, but the second and third, that's definitely how you say a defense that isn't playing that trap well gets beat. We do have a super chat by executive producer Herb, the big homie with the first super chat of the day. Hey Rob, hey Ananda, nice gear. Ananda, shout out to Christian, always showing love to the show. Hit the like button, subscribe. Don't get to say this very often, but Guatemala picks up 3 points. Guatemala power, yay! Nice. Guatemala 3 points.
Felicidades. Thank you, XPH. Shout out, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Rob, and to expound on Christian's point too, it wasn't even just the offside trap in certain situations when we were trying to assert our dominance when we thought we were in the front foot, but it only takes one pass over the top to sort of break our stronghold. But it's also just like Marcel Hartel, I thought, had a really, really strong game for St. Louis, and he would just get us with those line breaking passes. And I've been kind of advocating this from the beginning of the season, which is why I was excited about Lucas Sanabria. It's that dueling capacity in the midfield. When we win balls in the midfield and we go the other way, we are lethal. We are dangerous. And it sucks because I watched some of that game today, LAFC and in the Club World Cup, and just watching Delgado play, man, it's like, oh God, we miss that guy. We miss that guy's dueling capacity in the midfield. We miss that guy's legs because he did a lot of the dirty work for them against Chelsea, which they had to because they were under the cosh pretty much the whole entire game. So I think it's that too. It's like not just that high defensive line, but a lack of dueling capacity in the midfield to get us quicker up the pitch and to, like Christian said, exploit those transition moments.
But if I may ask a question to you, which I think is a very valid question, are they between two minds in the sense of, are they better playing deep where they can actually, build out of the back or at least use possession to their favor? Or are we going to go play Red Bull soccer where it's just we create moments of chaos in the midfield and then go from there? Like, I think you make a very good point about, winning duels in midfield. Well, everything I've seen from the Galaxy and what made them so successful last year was they played behind the ball. And now they're trying to hybridize it, and I don't think it's working.
Yeah. I think Greg's trying to figure out, depending on the opposition too, like what is going to be best for him in terms of he's still trying to figure out his players, to be honest. Like, I think he's still trying to figure out where to put Lucas Sanabria specifically and Edwin Cerrillo into the most dangerous positions for them to succeed. I think he's trying to also figure out, we're starting to figure out too that Nacimiento has a high work rate and a good dueling capacity for a forward. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how involved does he need to be in the buildup? How involved does he need to be when we set up in a 4-4-2 block? I think he's still trying to figure those players out individually, but I think you're right. We're kind of stuck in between, and we're going to talk about this later, man. But Emilio Garces, I think, is the wild card that we had last year that we don't have right now, and it's killing us. And we'll double click on that point for sure later.
Let's look at this lineup real quick.
For MLS defender.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, I mean, we were thinking that he would win it this year. Unfortunately, not to be, so much so that he lost his place in this starting lineup. As we mentioned earlier, we have Maya Yoshida and Zanka Jorgensen here as the center backs. Ananda, go ahead and take us through the rest of this one here.
Yeah, I think the big call for us was the midfield partnership, right? The midfield trio, given that Edwin Cerrillo was suspended on yellow card accumulation, as well as we found out late Friday, based off of the injury report, that Diego Fagundes was unable to play. He was out for an injury that we found out post-match. Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a foot injury.
Two broken metatarsals in the right foot.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's not going to be out for too long. I think it's going to be a short-term sort of.
We'll be back by the time the Galaxy play again.
Yeah, which is about 11 days. Well, now it's 9 days from now on the 25th. So Greg opted for Isaiah Parenthe, and I thought it was an interesting selection. I had called for if he went young. Rob, I think you called that Greg would go sort of with that young midfield. Well, I called for Diego. Unfortunately, he was injured, and I thought Winder would start this one just for his legs. But Christian, what do you think? What did you see out of Parente's performance, and did you think that selection was warranted? Did you think that here in that starting spot? Nope. Did we lose him? I think he's.
Sorry, yeah, I think you lost me for a hot sec.
There you are.
I live in a lead coffin. I apologize. Hello. Sorry.
No worries. We were just talking about.
Did you hear the question?
The issue with the connection is, I did not. But the issue with my connection is that my building is built in the 1920s, and I basically live in a lead coffin.
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah. The question was just Parente's performance. What do you think of it? Of his starting performance?
I mean, I thought he looked good. I thought he looked young, which I think is expected. I mean, this is a team that kind of had to chop and change for a lot of this season. And I think Parenthe has been asked to do a lot of things that maybe he was not expected to do as we kind of got into all of this. I'm hopeful that, there's going to be some fruit that bears off that tree. But I think just this team has had to do so much movement, and starting 11s have not been synonymous. They've never really gotten a rhythm. And I know I'm blaming injury, and I know I'm blaming all the rest of it, but we can't underestimate that. Like, the Galaxy have not gotten into a rhythm this year at least once,
Yeah,
so
facts. Yeah.
I think that cannot be overstated, but at the same time, your job as a head coach with Greg Vanney is you have to figure out how to get them all on the same page. I don't know if he's done that, and I think that's going to be an open question as we get into this break, which hopefully they can use to get everyone back on the same page, but they need another one, like, as soon as possible, just to get everyone on the same page, just to get the morale up. Like, I think a lot of the St. Louis game was, as you guys said, that minute that the 10 minutes went up, I was just like, yep, okay, 3-3. Yeah, all right. Yep, that's going to be what's going to happen. Like, we're so resigned to failure, and it feels like the players are kind of in the same mentality.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping at least some level of break is going to help them just kind of get out of that funk just that little bit. They're not making the playoffs, we know that, but I think with Parenthe, I think also keep in mind, Greg Vanney, his best work was done in Toronto when he was handed a young roster. He was handed a roster that was not expected to do much, and he gave it 3 years, let it breathe, and they won MLS Cup. The thing about this roster is that it's kind of going the opposite, where Vanney was given a very good roster last year, and he won an MLS Cup. And now, because of the punishment of winning MLS Cup, which is salary cap concerns, et cetera, he had to cut a lot of things that made him what he was. So he's basically back to 2017 Toronto, where he had to go raise a bunch of young Canadians in order to be successful. And then 2018, they win MLS Cup and everything goes well. So we're kind of doing this thing in reverse a little bit here. So yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of pain, but I think there might be a little bit of long-term gain, which is we finally have a coach that understands the worth of an academy, understands that building a club does not just happen overnight. And yes, the season's going to be a little bit painful, but there's going to be long-term gain in terms of growing a lot of those players. So yeah, we're going to have performances like this. We're going to have young moments where just people get boneheaded. My concern is that a lot of the boneheaded mistakes are not coming from the younger players. They're coming from the older players where I'm like, you guys have got to be smart.
Yeah, good point.
You know, where it's like Zonka, who has played for Copenhagen, who they've done a lot of impressive stuff on the European stage. He blows coverage on 2 of those 3 goals. My Yoshida in previous games has completely just lost the pace. Like, you guys are smarter than this. Like, come on, you know. I think that's my major concern here.
Yeah. No, it's a legitimate concern. We it's something that we've called out on the show before, Christian, how you would think that with all the experience, you wouldn't get these mistakes from these players, right? But unfortunately, you are seeing these players make these mistakes. But one player that we've seen kind of turn it around is Micovic. At the beginning of the year, he made a couple high-profile mistakes, lost his place, and he's gotten it back. He has 4 starts now, made 2 really big saves early in this one to keep the Galaxy in this one against RSL for the Galaxy's only win. He makes a real big save in that one early as well to keep the Galaxy in that one. What do you think of his turnaround? Do you think now, from what you've seen, Greg Vanney's decisions beginning to be justified?
I think it's a fascinating thing, the goalkeeper conversation, because you have John McCarthy, who has done a lot of impressive stuff. Like, I mean, obviously we know what he did with the club up the 110. We know what he did last year for us. They put a lot of faith in Micovic, and they spent a lot of money to make that happen. I think what we are seeing is a young goalkeeper that is trying to figure things out and trying to get things going. And I think we talked about this a lot in Simply Soccer, actually, at the beginning of the year, where I said the way that they're going to handle Micovic is going to say a lot about how they handle a lot of the rest of things. The fact that they handled it with such perfection, I think, is actually quite good. Micovic looks confident. You know, after a couple of very tragic games, they pulled him aside and said, hey, look, we're going to let you cool down in order to find out who you are, like to find your confidence, to find your whatever may have you. And he's found it. And I think he's looked really good. I think a lot of he does make mistakes. He's young. But I think a lot of the mistakes that he's made beforehand, they don't show up as much anymore. Yes, he's prone to a mistake every now and then. Every goalkeeper is. But he looks a lot more mature in net. And I know that sounds like super spurious, but I think that's kind of the way that he has projected himself over the past couple of games. And I think you look at this game, it could have gotten out of the Galaxy's hands outside of Micovic. And maybe Vanney's system relies on the goalkeeper just being hot, and that might just be the way that we're going to have to deal with things. But the way that he's handled a lot of the new pressure added to him, I'm very impressed by. And I think, especially in this game against St. Louis, there were a lot of opportunities he could have. I think Micovic, as of maybe March or April, would have given up. I think looking at him now, he just looks so much more confident and so much more like, okay, I'm assured, I feel good about things. It just looks a lot better. And I think
Yeah.
I will give Annie a ton of credit. Like, that's a difficult thing to do. To pull your young goalkeeper and say, hey, look, I need you to have 6 weeks where you can just stay in training, focus, get yourself back to what you are, and then pull your experienced goalkeeper who has earned by all rights, to be the starting number one, considering what he did last year, and say, all right, I trust you over him. And I think I'm Vanney mid-out / in. I think
He's like, I'm lukewarm on
depends
it.
on the day.
Well, despite those growing
there's a
performances, despite those growing performances from Micovic, Big Heck, shout out Big Heck out in the IEGs. Displeased with our back line, to say the least. He says our back line is weak ass bloody P. Yoshida out. Some strong words there. Shout out Big Heck.
Yeah, Big Heck letting us know how he feels.
If I may push back slightly on that, I think Yoshida is a very good captain. I think he's incredibly well spoken. He's incredibly a good leader. He is good to have in the locker room. Need that. Should he be starting every week? I think that's an open question.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that had he an understudy, he'd be starting every week. I mean, in an ideal world, Jalen Neal would still be on the roster, and the Galaxy would have, the stable of 4 center backs of Zanka, Jalen Neal, Garces, and Maya Yoshida, and they're going to be playing, a Maya Garces partnership, a Zanka Jalen partnership, or what have you, and have these young center backs to learn from these more experienced center backs. Unfortunately, the Galaxy don't have any cover there, and so you see Maya Yoshida displaying mass games. And you were asking earlier, Christian, why Zanka? I mean, Garces just had, I think the final straw was the 7-0 against New York. He just looked very off the pace, and it's kind of unfortunate because he, like Ananda mentioned, kind of was that X factor, that wild card last year. I think we might have lost Christian.
Yep. We'll get him back in just a second. I know he's having trouble with the internet. So, but yeah, Rob, I know you got some stats, and we both have some stats to this game that we wanted to talk to before we get on talking points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too many other than that. The Galaxy, typical fashion, they won the possession battle 52.4. They had 15 shots, and then 6 shots on goal. So nothing other than than that. Nothing really stood out. But I know this is more your domain.
Well, I was gonna say that nothing really stood out, but actually those numbers that you read off actually did stand out to me, because if I look at the trend line, sort of how it's been going before that, we weren't seeing these type of numbers, meaning we weren't out possessing teams, we weren't out shooting teams, we didn't have more shots on goal on them. So, and then you look at the XG 2.3 to 1.9, and to be honest, man, that should have been a lot higher. Because here's the funny thing about that JP chance that basically never happened. A shot on goal never happened, a save was never made, and or the ball never went back in the net. So there was no XG, right? That would have been easily like a 0.7 XG chance. I mean, that was pretty much in front of goal. I think it's one of those, Rob, in the stats that the LA Galaxy comms team sends us. It's one of those that's called a sitter, right? It's literally like a column that says sitter. So it would have been one of those. But so if I look at that, and this is why, and this is going to sort of lead into our first talking point a little bit, which is I look at those stats and I'm like, okay, the Galaxy attack looks like they're back to where it needs to be. They're getting a high shot volume. They're getting a lot of shots on goal. If you look at the big chances, Rob, both St. Louis and LA Galaxy had 5 big chances. St. Louis missed 3 of them, while the Galaxy had missed 2 of their big chances. So again, but if I look at that, that was more aligned with the stats that we saw last year offensively. So I guess in this 90 minutes, and really the last 2, remember, we've scored 5 goals now in the last couple of games. Can we say maybe safely that our attack is back? And especially not only the team as being a fluid unit in the final third, Rob, but also individual players as well, right? Stepping up.
Well, don't ask me. Ask our guest. He's back.
He's back. Yeah.
Yes, he's back. Senor Conway, what do you think after hearing what Ananda had to say about these stats in this match against St. Louis, aligning kind of with the stats last year in terms of chance creation? Is the attack back? Is can you confirm? Can you deny? What do you think?
I think the attack is back. I think also they got very lucky last year because underlying stats did not love them. They were overperforming expected goals by about something like a magnitude of 10. They were overperforming expected points by a magnitude of 0.5. A lot of all of this did not love the Galaxy last year, and somehow they won an MLS Cup. I think we're looking at a team that does not have a lethal nine. I think that's basically the issue, which is they create a ton and they use a lot of the wingers and a lot of all of the other accoutrement of this team. And maybe Nascimento was brought in to kind of play a false nine sort of role in all of this. And then you use Paintsel and Peck to just go and put up a 10-10 season again. But remember, they had 4 players that were above 10 goals, 10 assists last year.
Exactly.
That's astronomically wild. That stats don't love that. That is not something that happens often. So, I firmly believe that a good team, if you have 2 players that are 10-10, then you're going to be really good. The fact that we had 4, that's something we've never seen before. That's something that statistically just completely defies logic. So I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of coming down to earth a little bit, where it's oh yeah, no, this team was existing on the margins just that little bit. The problem is that I think that they're trying to play Nascimento in a false nine to kind of open up space for Paintsel and Peck, but the problem is that they don't have anyone in midfield to eat space, where Pooch was the guy that did that. They're trying to make Marco Reus do that, but Marco Reus is not Pooch. He's not as dynamic. He's not as Pooch.
He's not exactly. He's not as Pooch.
He's not
he's not as Pooch.
There's no other way to explain it.
But Christian, what?
Ability to find
I was going to say, sorry. Finish your thought for a second.
Well, Pooch's ability to get a ball and then take on 2 defenders and then just absolutely break a line and then sit in 40 yards of space and just be all right, cool. I've got Paintsel and Peck who are incredibly quick, incredibly smart on their runs. I can just ping one to them and I know it's going to land on their feet. They don't have a guy that can do that right now. And that's the problem. And then they also don't have someone driving from the 9, which Jovic was so good at doing, which is basically it pulls center backs so much deeper so that you open up all the space in midfield. And Pooch was just cool, yep, I got the run of the runway. Let's go and see what happens. They don't have that. Royce needs someone to play off of. I don't know what fixes all of this.
Yeah, well, Ricky Pooch is going to fix all this, right? A healthy Ricky Pooch, hopefully. But in lieu of that, though, at least what we can say, though, is, and this is something that Alex and I talked about in our video. So shameless plug, guys, go ahead and check out that video. But a couple of things that we talked about, sort of, we saw evidence of that in this game, which is without Ricky Pooch, we talked about Marco Reus having to be that clinical leader in the final third. He needs to be the technical leader of this team. And while Royce won't drop back and receive the ball and drive it up, 30 yards up the gut of the other opposition's team, what he is very good at is just smart decisions in the final third. It seems like the game slows down when Marco Reus is on the ball, and he seems to pick out the right pass, or he sees moving pictures and he operates in the right space. You look at that first goal, that interplay between Nascimento back to goal. Again, that's another thing we talked about, and sort of in lieu of Dejan Jovic, man, we need Nascimento to be that tip of the spear, to be the tip of the trident in those triangles in the attacking third. And one of the things that we didn't have in Christian Ramirez, unfortunately, in the beginning of the year, was a guy that we can play smart 1-2s on the edge of the box. And that's what we were very good at last year with Dejan Jovic, especially on that right-hand side. We'd love to attack on the Galaxy's right-hand side with Yamane, Mark Delgado at that moment, Gabriel Peck, and Dejan Jovic. And he was always that tip of the spear. And you look at that goal, the movement, the timing, And again, Marco Royce just a smart heads up play, knock it back in the middle of the pitch calmly or in the middle of the box for us to slot it home. Those are the things that we need Marco Royce to do now in lieu of without Ricky Puig, just being clinical in the final third, making the right decisions. And so I think those are positive signs, I think, trending moving forward. So, but the other thing is we need to get the other guy on the other wing on track, and that's JP, because unfortunately there was a couple of fluffed lines, I think, missed on his part in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, he didn't have his best game, but honestly, it's good that the offense woke up, because the defense let the Galaxy down once more. It's just something that we're gonna have to face. One is that our Gus dropped off again. Hopefully he comes back to us. But two is that this defense is never going to be elite. As much as we want them to. I mean, they had a really, really good period, a really good stretch at the end of last year, which took it to MLS Cup. But since then, 2.2 goals against per match. That's the league worst. 33.6 XG conceded after 19 matches, second worst. We already mentioned Garces was kind of that wild card last year, and it doesn't seem like Zanka and Maya are going to be that title winning partnership. Certainly has not looked like it so far.
But that's the thing, Rob, and that's what I talked about a little bit last time, was even at its best, this team is an average defensive team at best, right? Last year, you look at the stats, the Galaxy finished the league 12th best in the league defensively, 1.4 goals against per match. So, but I think we've shown that last year, all we need to be is a semi-average defense to win MLS Cup, as long as we have the attack that went with it, right? Now you can argue whether it was a historical attack, etc., which I kind of agree with, and now we're sort of regressing back to the mean a little bit this year. But again, I don't think we'll never. So when we always do predictions, both of us, or you and I, when we do those predictions, right? You're like, we need a clean sheet. The Galaxy need to be, and I'm like, that's not going to happen, because I know this team, especially in the state that we are now, we're never going to be that elite defensive team. In fact, I think the shutout rather than the 2 goals surprised me more. And that home game against RSL, right? It was the nil, was the clean sheet. But yeah, this team is never, like we said on the screen, like we put on the screen there, they'll never be elite defensively, but they're also average at best, at their very best, unfortunately. And you're right, Garces was completely that wild card that turned the tide for us last year defensively.
Yeah, and so many people were hype on Garces that they forgot about Jalen Neal, and now we're seeing how much he would be a help to this Galaxy team. What do you think, Ananda? Was it a mistake to sell Jalen Neal and keep Maya?
I mean, yeah, I said it even in preseason, man. I thought him and Garces was going to be that center back partnership of the future, right, Rob? I mean, I felt like Jalen Neal was and Maya Yoshida actually and him have those similar attributes. They're much more sort of they like to read the play happening. They're more of like a sweeper versus Garces, who's more of the guy that's a little bit more combative, right? Again, not to take it back to my beloved Arsenal, but I see it very similar to Saliba. They counteract each other. Their skill sets complement each other well. One guy has the physical attributes, the combative ability, and the other guy's more of the sweeper, the ball playing center back, the guy who's going to sweep up things in that last third, right? So, yeah, man. But I'll never understand the salary cap. So to me, it's speculation. I'm just maybe just crying over spilled milk or something. It's just not worth the conversation, right? Because I'm not a salary cap expert like Mr. Will Kuhn. So I've got to trust his judgment on that one.
One day I hope Jalen comes back. I hope he comes back into a Galaxy shirt. That's all I got to say. We have a super chat from Adam. Adam, thank you so much. Galaxy can never keep a lead. It certainly seems like that is the case.
Only kept it once this season against RSL.
That's very true. I mean, if we're going to be quite literal, then yes, that is absolutely true.
Which leads
Adam,
us to our
thank you
next
so much.
talking point. I love that, Adam. You led us right into our next talking point. Rob always loves it when you guys lead us into talking points. So there you go.
Exactly. Well, no, this one is something that I've kind of been griping about all episode, that this team hasn't. Man, I can't even get it out because I'm just like so frustrated. Like, what can you even say about this team that just goes up and is in a position to win games, and you're just like, you already know within yourself, like, nah, it's not gonna happen. You know, what does that say about this team, about the mentals on this team, about their ability to close out matches, that as soon as they go up, you mentioned your beloved Arsenal. That was maybe not recently, but that was a very Arsenal trait, like 10 years
Still
ago.
is. Can't
like,
close, can't bridesmaid 3 years in a row. Can't close. And by the way, I put it on the screen there, always be closing. This is I stole this from a friend of the show, Sophie Nucleau, who is living her best life in the Mediterranean right now. But she always says this, man, it's stick to your ABCs, which is always be closing. In the Galaxy, it's more like never be closing this year, right? Because we've lost so many positions so many points from winning positions. And yes, we can credit the team for showing some mentality, Rob. Like, they went down they went down twice in this game by a goal, and they came back both times. But we've have so many points dropped from leading positions, 13 points lost from winning positions this year. And this is our third goal, Rob, in the last 6 games that we've given up an injury time. Third goal in the last 6 games. That's easily, I don't know how many points that is, but that's 3 wins or maybe a draw and a couple of wins. That's 7 to 9 points there that we've lost. And those are all heartbreakers, man.
One of them was the one against Philly.
Correct. Which Philly, San Diego, and this one.
Would have been a point.
So
San Diego would have been a point.
7 points dropped. Or
this would have been 2 points.
8 points dropped.
So,
there you go.
So I mean, they'd be on 11 points right now. Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, or at least if you get ties from those, right? But in any case, those are all drop points. And Rob, you post-match asked Greg about this sort of team. You did, yeah. Being the stellar journalist that you are, always inquisitive, and you did ask Greg about about this and sort of why this team can't close, or just the mentality sort of in that last little bit. And here is what head coach Greg Vanney had to say.
Tell us, Greg.
I mean, I think it shows a little bit of both, if I'm being fair, like to the group. I think, you go down 1, you go down 2-1 coming out at halftime again, and to show the resiliency to fight back and get back on top of the game, I think shows some good qualities in terms of the mentality of our group, sticking with it, seeing that there was something in this game to take away from it and fighting back. I think ultimately, because it's the last thing that happens in the game, it feels like you lose 2 points because it's the last emotion that you have in it, and you are set to take it away. And the way we give it away is just, it's too easy. And it's a direct ball from a straight position, into us. It's something that we have to take care of. And so I think we ultimately leave frustrated, even though if you take the context of the whole game, we stayed resilient on the road in a tough place to play, tough 3:30 game where it's hot and humid. There's a lot of things there that are challenging, and we still put ourselves in position to win. But given what we're trying to do in terms of learning to put results and points on the board and being better in that regard, it definitely feels like 2 lost at the end. The guys are definitely frustrated from that side of things.
And I agree. 2 points dropped. Easy.
And I agree. Frustration. I mean, you'd think, I've said it to you a couple times today, you'd think you'd learn. You'd think you'd learn yourself, Rob Jalan. This is a team that has shown you a bunch of times.
I haven't learned. Haven't learned yet. No.
Yeah, well, we have 16 more games for them to show us now. So like Christian said earlier, I don't think this whole playoff thing, the math isn't mathing. One of the questions that we wanted to ask him is what should be the plan for the Galaxy for the rest of the year. Hopefully at some point we get to talk to him again, but it was great to have him while we did. Ananda, who is your Defending the Badge winner?
Well, let's pull up the candidates here. So we had 4 of them. And let's see. So I mean, these
Nasi,
guys, Nasi,
Nostradamus.
Nasi for sure. I mean, look, Christian talked about, maybe him operating as a false nine, but Rob, that was a striker's finish, clean finish with his left foot, right? I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful finish. I mean, we've seen, other folks sort of fluff their lines, even the likes of JP again in front of net, but that was a clinical, ruthless finish by
Exactly.
Nascimento.
Well
So
taken.
really nice there. Well taken goal. Of course, Peck, Greg said that, in practice that Gabby thought he was back, and he definitely looked like with his 2 goals. I mean, that last one, just beautiful composure there in front of net. I wish JP did the same in the first half, but unfortunately he didn't. Marco Reus, had a good game. Micovic with those 2 big early saves. Isaiah Parenthe, again, getting that start. Again, we talked about defending the badge sometimes. It's not things that show up in the stat sheet, but it's, given where he is in his development, this is a big game for him to step into. I think he needed to play well. We didn't notice him a lot, and maybe that's a good thing when it comes to young players, not making any mistakes, keeping a level head, and like I said, keeping the play going. But you asked me for my defending the badge. But remember, we're both wrong because we did do a poll on this, and there is a clear winner. But nah, man, for me, it's the guy that's made team of the match day. It's the guy that's probably been, I think, I would say the Galaxy's best player in the last month or so, and that's Marco Reus.
Yeah,
because and listening to his post match too, I know for some of these post match press conference, I don't know who you guys asked for necessarily, if it was Maya, if it was Marco, but the fact that he's obviously disappointed, but still willing to come out and talk to you guys.
I asked for Don Raul.
I'm sure you'd ask for Cosmo, but
yeah,
he's not on the road trip. But no, for a guy that gets a lot of flack like online, a guy that everyone thought he was past his best, a guy who thought that, even some folks in our community like that say, this guy is he's too injured. Like, we're paying max TAM money for a guy that's always on the injury table. And yes, he is carrying an injury. Unfortunately, that's just the knee issues that he's been having really ever since he's got here, right, Rob? But for him to pull out these performances, I mean, he's been clearly, I've asked him to be the technical leader for this team, especially in the final third. He has been, and his output, it's been really, really good, especially in the last month, like I said. So again, you always talk about defending the badge and defending the shirt. A lot of that too is we're performing in the face of adversity, performing when everyone else is saying that you're past your prime, you're always too injured, etc. So for that, I give him a lot of credit, and he showed his quality this past month. So I got to give him defending the badge, man. I think he's starting to, maybe with the absence of Ricky, he's starting to realize that he's got to be the guy. He's got to be the guy on this team to lead this team forward, and he's wearing that shirt proud, I think.
All I will add to that, because he's my pick as well, is man, all that sauce on that second on that assist for Nascimento. Yeah, I mean, come on. Hey,
that's his quality, though. That's his quality.
That was clean, baby. That was clean.
Yeah.
Marco, that was clean. Come on the podcast. Talk to us about it. You're more than welcome. So anyway, but yeah, no, I just had to call that one out. He's mine as well. But of course, like you said, we're both wrong. The people have spoken. They have chosen Gabriel Peck with the brace. Gabriel Peck is back, and you guys chose him as your defending the badge winner. So where does that 3-3 tie leave the Galaxy? After 18 matches, they now hold a 1-12-5 record with 18 goals for, 39 goals against. They are on 8 points, 0.44 points per game, negative 21 goal difference, still 15th in last place in the West, 14 points back from 9th place, which is the play-in spot.
Jeez, man.
Dead last
we're still stuck in single-digit points after 18 matches, bro.
Yep.
Unreal.
Montreal has 11 points now, thanks to
Jalen Neal's
Jalen Neal, the truth,
Aaron
man.
Neal.
They got that Aaron Neal to hook him up, man.
Yeah.
So the Galaxy have a couple weeks off, or a week off now.
9 days.
There's another break here for international play, so you won't see the Galaxy back until midweek against Colorado. You'll see us back on Monday, June 23rd, when we'll bring you our Colorado Rapids match preview, because unfortunately we won't be with you guys on Thursday, June 19th. There will be no show. I have to check in with my parole officer. Ananda also has to make a quick sojourn to Mount Everest. And also we're going to meet up to play Pogs as well. So obviously that means we can't be here on Thursday, June 19th, but we will be back with you on Monday.
We may pull out a video or just a little short one or something like that. I don't know. Just again, guys, for you guys to keep up with everything that's going on with this channel, go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know what's going on. Follow us on our socials at La Cuna Galaxiana, on all of your favorite socials. And yeah, we're gonna start like doing those clips again in terms of the highlights of the show, so you guys can get us in bite size, or what's the size that's called for like the Halloween candy? Is it fun size? Is that what that's called? Anyways, you can consume us in a fun sized fashion. So there you go, consumer content. And yeah, definitely. Damn, this team, I swear to I pulled up that schedule, bro. I pulled up that schedule, and you know the one thing that was running through my mind.
No sufras.
Well, you asked me, you usually ask me like if I got anything else to say. The only thing I got to say is I look at the schedule, and you know how Josh is like so adamant he will die on this hill of there's no such thing as a must-win game until it's mathematically a must-win game.
Right.
I look at those Colorado and San Jose. Those are must wins. Like, I'm sorry, there's no math involved, but if you don't win those games, like you're definitely out. Like, yes, you're probably out of it now, but like I feel like you're gonna get to that zone where you're gonna become mathematically out of it by July. So yes, these are pretty much must win games, unfortunately. Sorry, Josh, but I mean the math is I'm gonna have to reverse engineer that math because we're probably gonna be into must win territory in like July. For crying out loud. So there you go.
If not now. Well, you guys heard Ananda. Yes, está sufriendo. He's already suffering over the math. And the Galaxy don't have to face Colorado.
Oh, I know the team's not making it. They're not making the playoffs. I'm not suffering. It's just like I gotta hold on to something, man. I gotta have hope.
Your hope can be that this team will develop and 2026 might be a brighter year. But
that's pretty much it. But I gotta see this team win, man. I gotta see this team knowing how to pick up 3 points, and who knows, maybe go have a deep run in Leagues Cup, right? Maybe win a trophy. So we'll see.
Wouldn't that be something? Leagues Cup trophy, Campeones Cup trophy, and then the wooden spoon. Wow. What a triple. Well, my big hope for the rest of the year, Ananda, is making sure that this chat community and the folks that watch this show have a good time. So go ahead and drop us a line. Let us know what you like about the show. Let us know what you want to see more of, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Go ahead and let your folk know to get all their Galaxy content here on La Cuna Galaxiana. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for us. Ananda, you already got your last say. Do you have anything for the chat in last say? Well, let's wrap it up then here, shall we?
Let's wrap it up. Other than chat, we love you, and we'll see you in a week.
Exactly, chat. We do love you. We'll see you in a week. We'll see you next Monday. Ananda's right. We may drop a short little video here or there in the meantime, but we will see you on Monday, June 23rd for that Colorado Rapids match preview. Until then, one thing left to say. G's up!
Sounds like the Galaxy season.